Коллеги, продолжим. DT Global Business Consulting. Дэниел Thorniley, президент-основатель DT Global. Пожалуйста.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Merlion for the kind invitation to be with you. Thank you for listening to me in English language. I can see some of you with headphones, most without. I studied Russian language 40 years ago, and once upon a time I was quite good, and then I forgot the majority of my Russian. I came to the Soviet Union in 1978. I was very young, but I know that's before some of you were born. And I have a doctorate in Soviet political economy, which isn't so useful, but I enjoyed doing it. I have a terrible secret to share with you. I like Russia, and I like the Russian people, most of them. Doesn't mean I have to like Russian politics all the time, but politics around the world is not nice. I'm British, as you can hear, and British politics this week are not so clever. But just to share with you, I just didn't do my doctorate. I read Russian literature. I used to read Chekhov in Russian, but now it's mostly translation. Not just Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, but Pushkin, Gorky, Turgenev, Leskov, Bunin, Bielý Blok, Mayakovsky, Lermontov, Kuprin, and so on. My favorite book, and this is not a joke, Nishutka, is Master and Margarita by Bulgakov. So already I know I'm very popular, okay? The last thing to make you popular is I have one beautiful daughter, and she made me a diedushka last year. And my daughter is not Russian by nationality, but her name is Natasha. And I called her Natasha because when I was 17, I read War and Peace. So I decided, if I have a daughter in the future, I will call her either Natasha or Pierre Bezukhov. And so we ended with Natasha, so that's good. That's my history. I work with 380 corporations, most of them on there and most of them at the event, but the consumer products people, the B2B engineering chemical people, the service companies, pharmaceutical and health. This evening I'm meeting one of our IT clients, and tomorrow I'm making a presentation to one of our pharma clients. I don't do PowerPoint presentation, by the way. I've made 1,300 speeches, never used PowerPoint, and I never will. But I have, and our friends at Merlion have, the documents that I refer to. And the first thing I want to do is to tell you that business in Russia for Western companies is not bad, good, or actually pretty good indeed. What does good mean? First points are ruble sales, top line. I'm talking all companies in general. 60–70% of my clients last year, the year before, this year, next year, will grow in rubles 6–8% to 10% to 12–13%. Some, 10 or 15% of my clients, will grow 10, 15, 20, 25%. Unfortunately, 15–20% will be low single digits, 0 or even negative. Some parts of the IT industry, you know, this year, after a good year last year, are negative. Some industrial companies are negative as well. But the numbers I just give you are good. Those numbers are better than Latin America. They're better than all of Africa. They're better than all of the Middle East. And they're better than good parts of Asia. China is China. And the point is, it's not China ili Russia, it's China and Russia for investment and companies. And China is not an easy market, if ever it was. And the big growth of China is not there either anymore. So comparatively, Russia is a pretty decent market for top-line sales growth. Profitability. Profitability for my clients in this country used to be excellent, отлично, and now it's good to very good for 80–90%. By the way, one of the problems of the Russian market, until 18 months ago, you could charge premium prices. You could charge good high prices for your products, IT, chocolate, chewing gum, chemicals, and of course the consumer, the business consumer, the consumer, you in the shops, you now want more value for money. You also like premium and discounts. So the market's changed. So it's more attractive to the consumers, but it's more difficult for the manufacturing companies and the consumer products companies. But still, sales and profitability, Russia are pretty good. A third point, you may know or not know, if you do business in Russia, a big Western company, mid-size, you sell your products, you make a contract with a client, yeah, and you send an invoice, and you get paid. Really, generally, you get paid in Russia. You might think, well, what's this guy on about, you know? Well, generally in the Middle East, you don't get paid. You wait 6 months, or a year, or 18 months, or 24 months. And maybe then, inshallah, you'll get paid. So again, the environment on getting paid. Getting paid is a little technical detail, yeah? But excuse my language, it's bloody important, yeah? So getting paid in Russia used to be fantastic. It's called receivables, as you know. And receivables today in Russia are very, very good. They may not be 100% fantastic, but they're 95 plus. Compared with other markets, they're good as well. Investment. Yeah, we had sanctions. This is hanging over. Because I want to show you that there's still good things about the Russian market, because the general mood is, oh my God, Russia, sanctions, hacking, Putin, doing business in Russia is impossible or it's difficult, etc. It's not as easy as it was, but it's still very doable. Sanctions last year were a problem from April to September. There was a little bit of a bump this August. But also remember the Russian ruble. I know I watch the ruble, one of my boring aspects of life. Every day I look at the ruble. I'm sorry, you know, I'm not an exciting person. You know, I look at the ruble in the morning and I look at the ruble at night. And the ruble had a wobble this month in August, 3-4%. But if you go back 9 months, the ruble has been the strongest emerging market currency in the world for 9 months. Take out spring and summer last year, it's the strongest currency emerging market for 3 years. I think, the World Bank thinks, 80% of my clients think the ruble this year, next year for your budgets will be stable. What does that mean? Close to where we are now. 64 to 67 to the dollar and 72, 73 to 76 to the euro. That's the consensus view. Could be wrong, but that's the view. And that view is based on the fact, if all those people think that, they all think that there will be no big, new, serious sanctions this year, next year. And I think that's the way things will go forward. Companies, you might think, are not investing in Russia. It's less than it used to be. There's no doubt about that. Sanctions did have an impact, but there's a lot going on in the Russian market, even in the oil sectors as well, but people are reinvesting their profits. A lot of my clients, they're not building new factories in Moscow or Moscow Oblast, but they're building logistics centers, warehousing, depots, and so on. So that does continue. Business success can also be pretty fantastic. I'll name one company. Normally, I keep company names private, but this was public information. Leroy Merlin is the do-it-yourself company. I'm sure some of you shop there. Their sales in Russia are approximately 300 billion rubles. I'll repeat that, 300 billion rubles. That means about 4 billion euros, and they're growing 20% per annum and opening 20 new stores per annum. That is not normal business in Russia, but it shows the success that you can have. Russia, for Leroy Merlin, is the biggest market in the world, bigger than France and bigger than China. Last point I want to say on this part of my speech is the good things about business, human resources, people, talent in Russia. It's good. The talent in Russia, thanks to the Soviet educational system, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, was excellent, excellent. I would say top 3, top 5 markets of the world, Russian talent was there. And now there's been a bit of erosion in the education system, changes in structure and so on. But still, Russian talent is in the top 5, top 10, I believe, for the quality. By the way, you notice again, I want to make myself popular. So I stand here and I say, Russian people are wonderful. It's a clever trick of public speaking, yeah. When I go to Paraguay, I say, people in Paraguay are the most fantastic talent in the world. But no, seriously, Russian human resources were excellent, very good, and now they're good to very good. All these things, I think, put together, paint some white paint to the black paint that's often produced for the Russian market. I don't regard myself as an IT specialist, but I do look at a few things, and we've produced in my company a digitalization report. But I want to share with you a couple of things. I think you'll know about it. As I say, sanctions, we think the outlook is not bad. By the way, 90% of my clients, these manufacturing companies, were not impacted directly by sanctions. Procter & Gamble sales and Mars chocolate sales were not impacted by sanctions. IT, perhaps, oil and gas, some financing, but generally the impact was very small. However, globally and in Russia, you know something is happening. One of my big clients is an industrial, I'll keep the name quiet, industrial IT conglomerate. The managing director is based in Russia for the Russian business. They're a $3 billion company in Russia. Last year they grew 15%. This year they'll grow 10%. Their factories in Russia are some of the best in the world. The key performance indicators, the top 10 KPIs, are amongst the best top 2, 3 in the world. So this shows what can be done. However, the bad news is the managing director says not a Russian problem, a global problem. Globalization of IT is being reversed. You know that. This company was planning a global IT platform and had been working on it for 20 years, like most companies on that box there. But what's happening now with politics, with sanctions and so on, this company now says, Danny, we have a platform for the Americas, North-South. We have a platform for Europe, Western Europe, Central Europe, one platform. We have a platform for Eurasia, Russia, Middle East, Africa. We have a platform for China, and we have a platform for the rest of Asia. So 4, 5, 6 IT platforms for security reasons, for professional reasons, for route to market. In addition to those platforms, what you get in the IT industry, and again, you know this, if you're in China doing one of these companies and many others doing business in China, then the Chinese authorities say, you want to sell to us? Well, that's good. You're doing business with Huawei in California, aren't you? And if you're not, then who knows? And then, of course, if you're in California or in Manhattan, they say, well, great, we look forward to doing business with you, the SAP, European company. Are you doing business with Huawei in Europe? And so this kind of sabotage, propaganda, disruption of the markets is taking place. It's not, apart from the well-known case of Huawei, it's not so vivid. But certainly, you know, people in the know running these multi-billion-dollar businesses, I think very much we're seeing the reversal of the globalization of IT platforms. This company in Russia says, look, yeah, we're growing 12% in Russia. Our Russian business is good, but the global megatrends are not good. Just on the IT industry, very quickly, because you know more than I do, last year was a bit of a recovery in 2018 for the IT industry. We had growth, 8-10% on average, depending software, hardware, servers, whatever. But this year, the expectations were for continued. By the way, last year, the Russian market was the 8th fastest growing in the world, Vosium, 8th fastest growing, which is not bad. Of course, 14, 15 and part of 16 were disastrous for the IT industry. And we were hoping that the 2019 would be another recovery, and it's been a bit softer than we expected. So low single digits, some on the software and services side, 10, 15%, but less of the 20 to 25% this year, and so on. Just for time reasons, I jump forward. Some of our clients say, I think, you know, you think digitalization, IT, everything is moving forward. I have a very interesting insight from the Russian managing director of one of the biggest 10 IT companies in the world. I'll leave it at that. He says, Danny, yeah, you know, we know all about the development of IT, but he says, many of our Russian customers, they don't want change. They don't like change. They like their old traditional systems. And they get a sort of a command from the top, down the vertical. President Putin, of course, from the very, very top, has said, you know, we need digitalization, we need transformation. So that goes to the CEO of some of the very big companies in Russia. And the CEO says to the digital transformation officer, we need big changes in digitalization. And he says, yes, sir, we do, don't we? And then he tells everybody in the company, but the middle management, just like in the good old Soviet Union, in the Communist Party, the middle cadre, they think, nah, we don't want change. That means more work. It's more difficult, and so on. So we'll just sit on our hands and say, yes, we're doing change. Change is good, but we don't do it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm exaggerating for effect, but I think you know what I'm getting at. Change is happening for sure. The reverse argument of this is, well, big parts of the Russian government, some of the ministries, are really changing, digitalization and so on. The Moscow city government is famous for using that. The tax authorities have gone that route as well. Just to finish off on time reasons, moving on to digitalization, which is something that I do know about, we've produced 2 reports, one on Central Europe, one on Russia last year. We're doing a digital club for our group members next year as well. When you're looking at the manufacturing companies, the key for digitalization is how do we boost our digital business and maintain our traditional business? That's the key question that all the retailers, the consumer products, the engineering companies, the pharma companies, that's the key question that they've got. Now, you also, again, might think, well, digitalization is win-win for all manufacturing companies, but there's some big questions about that. If we digitalize, we can. I've got a cosmetics client. Keep them quiet. Cosmetics company, this year in Russia, is growing 9% top line, like I said before, yeah? But their traditional business is growing 4%, and their digital business is growing 50%. That shows you digital is faster, but of course it shows you digital is much smaller as well. Now, as I said at the start, if you can boost digital and keep traditional going, fine. But does digital simply cannibalize your traditional business, and you just don't get any real growth after all? Key question. Second point is, you digitalize, you put all your prices on some website or on the net, fantastic. So you say, our product, our key product, is on sale for 100 rubles or 100 million, 100 units. And your competitors see that. And then within 2 seconds, they go on the web and say, we got the same product and it's 99. And then 2 seconds later, 98, and so on. Price erosion. How do you avoid that when you go digital? And also on the business side, if you're in business to business, you've got distributors. How does a traditional Russian distributor project your products, engineering equipment, chemical equipment, in a web age? Usually a Russian traditional distributor, has old connections and channels and ways of doing business. Can they adapt to the websites and the digital business? It's a big question mark. The answer is yes and no. The same applies to Central Europe or Africa or Latin America. I think Europe and North America, the distribution networks have changed and so on, but that's a challenge. The challenges also for digitalization, why are they holding back? Money, resources, legacy, culture, and HR. And I just want to finish, just for time reasons, on the HR aspect of digitalization. Because one of the things about it is you need to find these great digital, we're going to grow our digital business. We need great digital people, yeah? Now, excuse me, the cliche, I've got this in my head. The digital people are 2 young men. They're aged 28, they've got big spectacles, and they play with a laptop 24 hours a day. And you say, Ivan, Volodya, we hire you, we put you in a cupboard room, and you just create our digital business, you know. That would be, I'm sorry, I apologize, yeah? By the way, we have one Russian company. That sounds like a stupid cliche, yeah? I have a female friend, a Russian lady. She runs a mid-size Russian business. She has digital men like that. And you know what? It's a Russian payment system of salaries. These men, they forget to collect their wages, зарплата. So the boss of the company has to phone the wives and tell them, you know, Irina, your husband Volodya, he's forgotten to pick up his salary again. Now, I know it's a bit cliched and old-fashioned, but, you know, you can see the thing. Now, to be honest, that's not the way Colgate, Palmolive, or Mars run their digital business and so on. But the thing is, finding these people everywhere in the world is going to be difficult. Because also you want them to run your business as well if you can. So good digital people who are very good at business, that's very difficult to find. So we're going to get digital and teach them business, or do we get business people and teach them digital? These are the challenges that companies face. I think also, just in closing on Russia, what is interesting, you know, those who are doing digital, you need them, so you're paying them good money, salary increases and so on. And then you've got people in traditional business, yeah, over here. Now, as we know, in Russia, salary information is private and confidential. So all salary information is known within 10 seconds. So the people working in traditional, they go to the boss, the general director, and they say, Ludmila in digital is earning 27.45% more than me. I want to transfer now to digital. I want 40% pay increase because Ludmila's an idiot and I'm better than her. If you don't pay me, transfer me and pay me today, I'm leaving tomorrow and I'm working for your competitor. So what I'm saying is finding the digital people is a challenge over here for the digital, and it's also contaminating and disrupting your normal HR strategies and policies as well. But once again, I say, the HR people are, you know, managing that business, and the Russian people, I told you before, the Russian workers and the employees and the cadre are amongst the best in the world. And on that, a little populist note again. For time reasons, I'll finish. Спасибо. Всего доброго.